Hi and welcome to the Women's National League podcast here on finalwhistle.ie. It's episode 10. My name is Breifne Earley and I'm joined once again by Galway and Ireland international Meabh de Burca. Meabh, you're very welcome back to the programme.
Thanks very much, Breifne. It's good to be here again.
And obviously Steph's away for a couple of weeks and you've been filling in, so this is the second week in a row, third in about 4 weeks. We're going to have to give her a naughty card for not being around, but she's back with us next week. But in the meantime, you're going to take a look at the action of the weekend and a little look forward to next weekend's action in the Women's National League. Plenty of games to get through. We'll also be joined for interviews with a couple of people from around the league. We're going to be talking to Niall Connolly, manager of Treaty United, about their challenging start to the season, while Aife Haran of Athlone Town and Sinead Taylor from Wexford Youths drop in to say hello to us as well. But first, we're going to take a look at last week's action across the Women's National League. 4 games, as usual, across the weekend. We might start with Galway, your own side, just for you watched the game, I know, over the weekend. A rough day for them down in Ferrycarrig Park. Probably unreflective of the performance, but 5-0 the final score for Wexford. Some cracking individual goals, some good team goals as well from Wexford. But one that maybe Galway will be eager to forget about pretty quickly, I'd imagine, Meabh.
I think definitely one to forget about. Just a bad day all round at the office from a Galway perspective. Like we normally say, bad things happen in threes, but I think there was a lot more than 3 bad things happening last weekend. But unfortunately, obviously from the OG to potentially serious injuries as well, and a lot of other things in between. So I think just like you said there, I think Galway were well in the game, and I don't think the scoreline was reflective of the game itself. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that Wexford should have got the 3 points, but I think maybe 5 goals was harsh on Galway from a Galway perspective. But like you said there was some quality from Wexford all the same.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Sinead Taylor about the game later on in the show, but we have to talk about Elmer Lloyd because she's 16 years of age. What a strike from her. She was so involved in the build-up as well. She really is turning into a real prospect for Wexford and Ireland.
She is. She's showing really how good she is. I mean, it's happening now on a regular basis. It's not just a once-off or that. She is doing it regularly, and like you said, it was a quality finish. It was struck from way out, but it was hit with such venom and right into the bottom corner. Galway keeper Maya had no chance to save it really. So she's really, I suppose last year was just an introduction to the league, but I think this year, we'll really see her push on, and it's frightening to think how good she's going to be.
Yeah, in terms of, I suppose, where this leaves Galway, obviously you mentioned the injuries, the suspension to come in as well with the red card at the weekend, and it's just, where does Billy Cleary go to from here for next weekend?
I think it's probably come as a good thing that there is going to be an idle week for Galway this week coming, because it kind of gives them a bit of time to maybe regroup and just to, I suppose, reflect a little bit on how things have been going, and to try just to put maybe things in place to try prevent it happening again. And I think it's disappointing, but like we said there, I think it just was a bad day at the office, and just needs to be kind of forgotten about at this stage and try to push on.
Yeah, now in terms of other games, good performances, I suppose, from sides that were expected to take pretty heavy beating. I think, to be fair, for most people going in, most of the pundits last week would have called a fairly easy victory for Peamount. Didn't turn out like that, despite what the scoreboard might suggest. It took nearly an hour for Peamount to score. They ended up with 3, clean sheet as well. They'll be happy. But that was essentially Peamount's second string that took to the field in Jackman Park last weekend. Should that be positive that they can still go out and win a game and dominate a game like that? Or is there really the first signs maybe that there isn't as much strength and depth as Peamount might like there to be?
I think it probably comes from the dogness and I suppose the compactness of Treaty perhaps as well. They're a lot of teams now we can see are managing to hold the likes of Peamount and the top 3 as such to lower score lines and I suppose to stay in the game for longer. And I think that's just testament to the defensive side. And I think, Peamount did show their class at the end of the day, and it was a great strike from my former teammate Aife, to start the ball rolling. And I think, Peamount still, I'm sure they're full of confidence. confidence. Even they were very patient as well. I don't think they mind if they're not scoring until the second half, as long as they're getting the points on the board and the goals to go with it as well.
Yeah, no, interesting times ahead for Peamount. They're still top of the league, of course. 4 wins from 4 so far. They'll be happy to give some of those girls who haven't had as much game time a good run out as well. There, you're looking at the sub list for Peamount at the weekend. Obviously, certain players like Louise Masterson, Claire Walsh in particular, Dervla Byrne have featured very heavily this season. Neither played a role at the weekend, so good to get those kind of fringe players some real game time in the league.
I think it'll be even more important to come into the latter end of the season if they were to pick up, potentially a suspension or injury or that as well, to show that these girls have plenty of game time in the legs as well, because that's, I think, like I said, it's going to become more important, the longer the season goes on, because this, I suppose, squads that have won the league in the past or cups in the past have definitely had depth, and I think Peamount are showing that in the past few weeks.
Yeah, another clean sheet for Nisha McAloon as well. She deputised for Niamh de Burca. There's a really good competitive nature there between those two girls. Niamh, hugely experienced. Nisha probably has a decade on her, but looks like a really good prospect for Peamount between the sticks, in the long term at least, if not necessarily in the short term.
For sure, yeah. I mean, you don't see it too often with teams in the National League where they can just have one keeper fill in for the other and there to be no real change in the quality between the posts. So I think Peamount are very lucky in that regard, that they have, two very much quality keepers. And like you said, Niamh de Burca's probably just slightly ahead at the moment, but I think with every game that Nisha plays, she's only getting better, and she's getting an ample opportunity to prove herself as well.
Really good to see the manager having faith to make a change like that as well. We're seeing a lot in the men's league for different reasons. A lot of players losing position rather than maybe putting a case forward to earn it. In terms of the other games, 2 other games, of course, Shells and DLR, they played a cracking game at Tolka. Really good early goal from Emily Whelan, set the pace. Noelle Murray with a penalty later on in the game, before Carla McManus set the social media world alight with a fine strike from long distance. Just caught Amanda Budden out, but she'll be very happy with that strike. And despite the defeat, from a personal note at least, she gets that goal on her score sheet for the season. Did you see much of this game?
Yeah, I saw the strike anyways. It was amazing. It was a really good hit from Carla, and I think she's shown in the past, even with her time at Kilkenny, how much of a threat she is in front of the goal. She used to bang in the goals for Kilkenny, and they maybe weren't creating, or they obviously weren't creating as many chances as other teams in the league. And I think she'll be happy with her performance coming on and impacting the game, not necessarily the result in this case, but I think she'll have great confidence from that, and particularly as they're going to be missing Kate Mooney, unfortunately, for the rest of the season as well. I think she'll become a more integral part of that DLR team. And I think, like we discussed last week, it was a really competitive game and it was really close, and I think DLR will be probably disappointed just not to have gotten something out of the game.
Yeah, DLR's first defeat of the season, only by the 1 goal as well. I've been really impressed with them in terms of, I suppose, where they've come from last year. They were in that second tier when the league broke in half, and they seem comfortably in that top grouping of teams this season. What is it about that, I suppose, squad or that club at the moment that's really pushed them up a level, more so than maybe anyone else in the league table at the moment?
I think they've probably had some consistency, with their background team management. Graham Kelly in there has been doing a very good job, but also the additions in the off season as well. The likes of Jess Gleeson just brings a lot of stability at the back, and I think that's a really important position, is that centre back spot. In contrast to with Shells, they have Paris Flattery, occupying that for years on end. As well as Wexford have solid defensive, partnership as well at the back. So I think, that's a lot to do with it. I think the experienced players are kind of bringing, like I said, bringing the standards up and been able to, really pose threats now. And I think, like I said, they'll be disappointed, but I would expect them to be, potentially getting a win against either the likes Peamount, Shells, or Wexford, who they've obviously already drawn with as well earlier in the season.
Yeah, and a final game last weekend, Cork City made the trip up to Athlone. Plenty of controversy. Penalties should have been given, should have not have been given. I know both benches seemed pretty irate at different stages through the game. Cork opened the score and a great header from a corner from Becky Casson. Looked like they might take a good run at that, but then controversial enough penalty. We've looked at it. We can't show it obviously on the show because we don't have the rights to show it, but you've watched it back. What were your thoughts on that? For me, let's hear your thoughts first, and then we might have a chat about it.
Yeah, I thought.
Well, I'll put you on the spot. It'll be fine.
No problem. I thought that Cork would have rightly had grievances with it, but I mean, I looked back at it multiple times, and in the end, I actually thought it was a penalty to Athlone, but. That's fine if we have the luxury of being able to view the incident a few times before we make up our mind. So, I think from a Cork side, they can be disappointed that it was given, but in fairness to Athlone, they just took the opportunity that was given to them.
Yeah, I think the penalty for me, for those who haven't seen it yet, it's not actually in the highlights package of the game, but you can watch it back on LOI TV if you have it's free as long as you're a member of the site. You don't have to pay. It is a free match up on the site. You just need to join up. Just before half time, essentially the ball broke around the box. Poor defending from Cork. Really should have cleared the ball, should have dealt with it. A couple of players should have dealt with it way before it ever got to the penalty situation. Two players came together and one kind of stopped and tried to just defend the ball, really, but there was a swinging arm, no intention. It was just the way she moved, her arm moved. I can 100% see how the referee gave it. It's a 50-50 call. I think hometown decision, I think, goes in favour of the hometown team, and that's probably what happened. But I do think they had as much right to a penalty as a right not to a penalty, if that makes sense. It wasn't a complete hometown decision. It was just, when it was 50-50, I think that's just the way the referee went. I think that was also the case for the equaliser at the very end. 2-2 the final score, obviously. Last 10 minutes of the game, I thought the Athlone player coming out, Caitlin Keogh, I think it was, came out and took Becky Casson out of it. They came together. If I'm the referee, it's a free kick to Cork. Referee gave a free kick to Athlone, and Athlone scored from the resulting goal, or from the free kick. Again, could have been defended better. Absolutely. Your thoughts?
I'd agree with you that I thought it was Cork free kick out rather than an Athlone free kick in, but what was interesting was the reaction of the Cork bench. They were very irate and they really caused uproar on the sideline, which potentially may have caused a distraction to the players. And like you said, Cork did defend the free kick, resulting free kick poorly, but like you said, I don't think it was a free kick. And but at the end of the day, I suppose you just have to deal with the decisions that are made on the pitch as well, and to react to them as best you can, and to try to still, it was a free kick, although it was in a dangerous position. I don't think it was scoreable directly. And unfortunately, like I said, from Cork, they did end up conceding from it, which they can definitely have grievances over.
Yeah, it was an awkward kind of height that came in just under the crossbar for Abby Mccarthy, and I think she was caught in two minds as to whether to try catch it or punch it. But when she was looking up for that ball, there must have been 3 or 4 Athlone players coming at her, and maybe one Cork player, maybe. But when the ball came down, it fell at the feet of 2 or 3 Athlone players, and it was just a matter of which one of them was going to put it in the back of the net. So I think if I was the Cork, and I don't want to be slating Cork, but if I was the Cork management, I'd be more concerned about the defending than maybe necessarily the referee's decisions. Although I do think the referee got it wrong, particularly in that free kick. But it's the defending for me would be the thing I'd be looking at. Well, let's get on with the meat of the programme. 3 interviews for you today. We're going to hear later on in the show from Niall Connolly, the Treaty United manager, about his side's valiant effort against Peamount at the weekend. Sinead Taylor is going to be joining us about her strike for Wexford Youths against her former side, Galway WFC. We hope she doesn't fall out with Meabh while we're having that conversation. But first, we're going to hear from under 19 still, but very much a part of their senior squad, Aife Haran from Athlone Town is going to be joining us about that game that kicked off down in Athlone at the weekend. Let's hear from Aife. Aife Haran of Athlone Town, an integral part of that squad since the club came into the league, I suppose 12, 14, 15 months ago now. Previously with Sligo Rovers, obviously our paths crossed down there in Sligo IT and in the showgrounds. What's it been like since you've made the change to the Midlands, and how has the league been treating you as a youngster, still under 19, but playing with that senior squad now for the last year and a half.
Yeah, the experience has been so good so far. Like coming from the under-17 team, like it's obviously a big step up, you know, like the pace of the game and everything. But I'm learning a lot, especially playing against them top teams like the likes of Peamount and Shelbourne. Like they play such a fast-paced game, and it's just every kind of game, and I'm just learning from, and it's been really, really fun.
What have you found, I suppose, to be the biggest challenge so far?
I think the pace game, like especially in midfield, like you do not get a second to think, you know, like they're attacking you straight away. Like you need to make up your mind really quickly, and even just like fitness wise, it's just a whole different like ball game.
Yeah, in terms of, I suppose, the first season last year, I know there's a couple of new teams in there last year, yourselves, Bohemians, to a certain extent, Treaty. And at times you may have struggled in the league. You seem to be a bit harder to break down this year. The squad seems to be a little bit stronger. What do you put that down to from your impressions of this season versus last?
Well, I suppose just even like the experience of last season, you know, we have played all them teams, and not that we know what they're going to do, but we have a better idea than we did last year, I suppose. And I suppose new players coming in as well with experience, and I think it's just overall just, you know, knowing what to do now than last year.
Yeah, in terms of, I suppose, let's talk about some of the new arrivals into the team, because it's a very different look to the squad than you would have had last year. There's been maybe 50% of the team is new to the league and to the club. What have those new arrivals into the team done? The likes of Miranda Vanny, some of the girls coming in from Gaelic backgrounds, Mona Earley, that type of player.
I suppose them girls, they've lifted the standard definitely in training, you know, like just the pace and everything. And them, like the likes of Myrne, like she has experience up an international level, and you know, it's really good for her to bring that in, and we can kind of bounce off that as well. And just like as the older players as well, like they're bringing experience, they're teaching us, you know, so it's just a lot better.
Yeah, in terms of, I suppose, when we look back over the last 2 weekends, there's been plenty of controversy in your games. Maybe let's cast our mind back, I suppose, 10 days now to the Wexford game. They would have been perceived to be fairly strong favourites going into that. You held them scoreless for 80 minutes, despite even losing a player then, and then losing a second player. What was it like in the dressing room from your point of view, having run so close in a game that you weren't really expected to get a whole pile out of?
It was definitely frustrating. Like the fact that we held them off so long, and then obviously to concede that penalty, it is very annoying. But as well as that, I suppose we had looked at the positives as well, that we did keep them off for that long, and you know, like it's not the worst result to get, you know, away from home against a top team like them. So I was kind of mixed emotions afterwards.
Yeah, I kind of feared for you a little bit this weekend, given, I suppose, Myrne and Fiona, when I watched you play this year, have been probably two of the players who I would have thought looked pretty decent on the team, probably two of the standouts, and both of them suspended this week because of the red cards the previous week. Cork have been thereabouts in most of their games, and yet you came out of it with a draw. That's got to give you a lot of hope.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, look, the red cards, that's just what happens in the game, and I suppose we just, you know, the other girls that might have got a chance, whatever, worked harder in training, and we all kind of, you know, worked together, and to get a result like that, missing them two top players, I think was super. I think, obviously, as a team, we should have won it in the end, but a draw is still a point on the board, like.
And how are you finding the management, I suppose, down there, the coaches and that? Do you find that you're learning a lot from them?
Yeah, definitely. Like the coaching is really, really good. Like, and you know, even if we have a problem, like they're so open to us, you know, going up, asking them this, that, and the other, and they're always helping us out. Like.
Yeah, we've talked a lot on the show about how, I suppose, the boys' side of the house, in terms of the SSE Electricity League men's sides, doing well or doing poorly, whether that has any effect on the women's side of the club. And I suppose Athlone, top of the first division at the moment, the mood must be pretty good about the club in general. Does that have any effect in your dressing room? Because some of the different clubs have spoken about how it's affected them or not affected them, as the case may be. What's that been like in Athlone?
I suppose, yeah, like obviously we're happy for the men's team, you know, like some nights we do be training on the pitch with them, and I suppose they, like, we share a gym with them and everything, and you know, like obviously we're happy for them, but in the dressing room I wouldn't think it makes difference.
Yeah. Going back to the game at the weekend, there's a lot of controversy from, I suppose, about a couple of decisions that went, penalties that were given, penalties that weren't given. Do you as a player take any notice in that at all, or does it just kind of go over your head onto the next game, point in the bag?
Yeah, I just put over my head, like when the game's over, the game's over. Like you can't change decisions, you know. But that, like, some of them calls, especially I suppose the penalty, I genuinely, I was literally right beside it, and it wasn't. But like obviously they're going to call for it. Like we probably would do the same. But after games, just forget about it, move on, and obviously our focus is for this weekend against Peamount now.
What would you be hoping, I suppose, to get from the game against Peamount? How are you approaching it?
Look, we're going up open-minded. Obviously, we want to get a result, whatever way. But then again, we're not kind of kidding ourselves. Obviously, they're top of the table, they're top class team, like they're passing everything. But I suppose we're just going to go up and try our best and if we can get a draw, absolutely brilliant, and if we get a win, even better. But we're not kind of thinking too far.
What has the talk been, I suppose, maybe in the team WhatsApp group or in a training during the week? Have you reflected back on that 80-minute performance against Wexford and kind of trying to maybe instill that kind of spirit in the side for the game on Saturday?
Yeah, we'll definitely be going through formations now during the week and just seeing how we set up and if we go defensive or not, because obviously they're such a good attacking team, you know. But yeah, I think I'm not too sure like properly yet how we'll set up, but we definitely have a game plan in place.
I don't know the details. I haven't seen any announcements from the FAI, but in terms of suspensions, Murren and Fiona, are they just one games? Are they back for this weekend?
Yeah.
So you're at full strength. Any injuries or anything that you could tell us about how the team is faring out?
There's a few kind of niggles and stuff, but nothing too serious. But Murren and Fiona definitely back this weekend.
In terms of, I suppose, individual goals, have you any plans this year or any targets yourself in terms of games played or assists? I know you like a long range screamer every now and again as well. You pop up with them from time to time. What individual goals have you set for yourself as well as, I suppose, what maybe the team has targeted for the year?
Well, personally for myself is just securing that space on the starting 11. You know, like this year, I think especially more than last year, it's so much more competitive. So I just want to make my stamp on the league, you know, and like getting that starting 11. And then I suppose for like as a team, finishing up higher than we did last year on the table would be a massive goal. And just getting results, like getting points on the board, because we've already played like 4 matches. And we've 3 points, so obviously we need to get a win.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose in terms of history repeating itself, I know when we were both involved with Sligo, the first ever game, you had a bit of a viral shock up at Peamount, scoring a goal early on in the game. It kind of got a lot of viral attention on Twitter, I think, at the time. That team won. That Sligo Rovers team beat Peamount that day. Della Doherty, Becky Watkins were in that Peamount side. They'll probably feature over the weekend. But there's 4 or 5 girls who played for Sligo that day, now in the white and black of Athlone. Yourself, Abigail, Kelsey, and maybe 1 or 2 others. I know Catherine Hyman would have been involved in the staff as well. So there's plenty of history of pulling results, maybe from the unexpected from a couple of seasons ago. Will that even come into your consideration at all, or is that just me reminiscing in my own memory?
Yeah, no, it would. It'd be nice now to get one of them goals again during the weekend, but I don't know. I'm not going to be negative, but doubtful.
Okay, well, listen. I think we'll be looking forward to the game, and I think we've seen a lot of the perceived weaker sides really putting it up to some of the more established names, household names around the league over the last couple of weeks. And I think we're going to see tighter and tighter games between, I suppose, different aspects of different teams across the league. And I think this weekend, there's no reason why there can't be a surprise in Greenogue on Saturday evening. Aife, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure as always, and best luck to you and your teammates for the weekend, but also for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Well, from a novice in the league to someone who's a little bit more experienced around the clubs in the league, we're joined for the next 15 minutes or so by Sinead Taylor, who was on the score sheet for Wexford Youths at the weekend. Sinead, nice to hit the back of the net, always nice as a kind of an attacking player. You're very welcome to the show, but congratulations on your goal.
Thanks a million for having me. Yeah, obviously delighted to get on the score sheet, but obviously it's against Galway and I don't normally like scoring against one of my favourite teams, so look, has to be done as a striker though, doesn't it?
Will you better explain that to people who might not be that familiar with the league, who are coming in for this as a first time? Obviously, former player with Galway as well, teammate of Meabh's. We might even get a few stories from either of you about the other out of the dressing room over the last few years. Talk to us about maybe that move and I suppose your time at Galway and how you ended up at Wexford.
Yeah, so I suppose I ended up in Galway because I was based in Athlone with the Army and I was playing in Athlone with Maz Sweeney at the time, and she was like, look, Galway are setting up a National League team, would you be interested in playing? And I said, yeah, look, no bother. And then Nigel Keady, who was obviously the manager at the time, got in touch and he actually came down to Athlone and I signed the papers, and then to be honest, I never looked back since. So I was there, was it 2013-14 season, Maeve?
I think so, yeah.
And then I came back again before I got injured. I can't remember what season that was, but I was injured. But I was commuting from Dublin across, and it was, I just couldn't do it. The body couldn't do it either, spending like 2.5 hours in the car. So unfortunately then had to look at another move. But I took time out. I was playing rugby for a while. Then I got injured. Like, I actually thought I was going to have to retire. It was pretty bad with my Achilles. And then I was lucky. I was going to get surgery. Then it kind of settled down. And then I managed to go. One of the girls was like, will you come training with Wexford? Come down and just see how you get on. I was like, okay, sure, I'll give it a lash. I have nothing to lose, and I've been there since, obviously in between overseas trips then as well. So I'm back now for a little while and see how I get on.
Yeah, how do you find, I suppose, balance and everything? Obviously, you mentioned there that you're in the Army, and do you find it challenging to try to be able to juggle both the Army and soccer as well as your personal life as well?
Yeah, it is difficult sometimes, obviously, when you're on 24-hour duties and things like that. Like, I've had managers previously that weren't understanding of the fact that we did do 24-hour duties, and in the role that I was in previously, I had to do the same maybe 1 or 2 a week, and obviously that impacts on your training, and then sometimes you have to miss training and stuff. But fortunate enough, there's been, obviously most of the managers have been accommodating enough, and they understand that what we do as a job isn't ordinary. It's not Monday to Friday 9 to 5 kind of thing. So like, we do get detailed to go overseas and stuff. So unfortunately, that just means we have to leave for obviously 6 months, and then we can come back again.
Okay, I'm going to ask the stupid question here. 24-hour duty, is that what it sounds like, where literally you're on call or on duty for a full 24 hours? How does that work in the real world?
Well, you're just in the barracks, so you're probably on an armed duty, so you're up for the 24 hours then. So obviously, by the time you drive home and everything, you try and get a bit of sleep, and you get the next day off to rest off, and then you're back in work then the following day. But like, if you've got training or a match, like I used to do Friday duties because we'd have games on Saturdays, and it was tough. You're like a little zombie going around the place, trying to get yourself up for a game.
Yeah, so you do it full 24 hours, you have to get some sort of sleep. So you're essentially out of commission for about 35, 40 hours. Like,
yeah.
That's a nightmare. Sounds horrific. And then you have to try and pair that up with the requirements of being an elite sports person as well.
Yeah.
Did you have any pre-game rituals? Well, I wouldn't even say rituals, but after a night duty before a game, just to try get yourself up for it?
I just had to make sure kind of food prepped, and then as soon as I got in, straight into the bed, get a few hours sleep, and then off you go again. Make sure you have everything ready to hit the road then. Obviously match kit, and you don't want to be forgetting anything. So you have to really be prepared just so that you're ready to go.
And so you were in Galway and you left there because of time commitment and travel that was involved. So then you decided, well, where else is 2 hours away? So you went to Wexford. Like, it doesn't seem to be any easier to be playing with Wexford than it was to be with Galway. Why make the move?
Okay, so the Army flew me back early from overseas. So I came back in September to start a college course in Carlow. So I'm actually doing electronic engineering full time. So obviously we were supposed to be training in Carlow. Well, we were training initially until COVID hit, and then we obviously have games in Ferrycarrig then at the weekend. So that's only an hour and a half from Dublin, but I would have been in Carlow anyway. So I was like, sure what harm. And then obviously COVID hit and things kind of went a bit astray.
But I think when you're at this level, you kind of resign to the fact that you're going to be spending half your life in a car to and from games or to and from training anyway, right?
Yeah. You just I think it is a big commitment. It's something you do sign up for. I don't know if, obviously, new players coming into the league probably don't understand that it is such a commitment. Like, it is 7 days a week, you know, and obviously, maybe you know yourself, being on the road is just part and parcel of it. Yeah. You know, like Saturdays, your day's gone. You know, it's just, you're either waiting around to go to a game or you're up early to go to the game. You know, so like, it's just, you just get used to it in the end.
And between soccer and rugby, like, did you find, I suppose, much of a difference? I know you took a break and you were with the rugby for a while, but I suppose what kind of drew you back then again? Was it just you fell in love with the rugby, or was it just the soccer took priority again?
No, my heart was always with the soccer, to be fair. Like, it always has been, and it always will be. Like, don't get me wrong, there is periods in your life where you fall out of love with the game, and you know, then you get back into it. But for me, rugby was just a pastime, whereas soccer was, you know, something that I love and I'm passionate about. So no, that's why I carried on. I just said no. I was getting broken up, like absolutely broken up. You know, like I'm sure Kim was even saying it to you, like, you get absolutely broken up. You wake up the next morning feeling like a car crash. At least after a soccer game, it's not as bad. But you know, when the bones are getting old now, it is a bit, takes you longer to recover.
Yeah, I have a nephew who is in the Connacht Academy and he's playing AIL with Sligo, and I see it firsthand in the boys, and you like the girls, even the impact just seems to be that much stronger, and the injuries seem to be worse. So I can only imagine. In terms of the game at the weekend, obviously you touched on at the start of the show, Galway, you had one of the 5 goals, but it was great team performance, but capped by some fantastic individual performance. We talked about her a lot on the show, but Elmer Lloyd's goal just stood out for me in terms of she must have had 2 or 3 touches, a bit of a pirouette in there as well, and then just a strike from distance. What's it like seeing that caliber of player coming up? Let's say a decade younger, being generous, a decade younger, maybe a little bit more in terms of the technique and the ability that they have, and how frighteningly good some of these players are.
Yeah, like I suppose, like Ellen, like we refer to as the superstar. Like, she is a superstar in our eyes. And like, obviously at training, we get to see that day in and day out what she can do. And the fact that she's going out week on week and proving herself at such a young age is just a testament to her as a player. Like, even the goal of the weekend, even you said yourself, like a little pirouette in the middle and then an absolute cracking left foot finish. Like, her left foot is absolutely devastating. And then obviously the fact then that she's getting called up to the senior team as well is good for her, and especially at such a young age. She can only get better. And I'm sure from her point of view and from our point of view, we want her to keep developing. And hopefully she can, you know, it could be her full-time job. Hopefully, like the likes of Katie's gone over to play with Arsenal. You know, she's done such a good job. Hopefully Ellen can do the same.
Do you think there was anything, I suppose, in particular that led to the good result for yourselves at the weekend? I know from a Galway perspective, a lot of things seem to go wrong all at once, but from a Wexford viewpoint, is there anything that I suppose he did differently or anything in terms of preparation?
No, like, we've been working on different shapes and formations in training, and you know, set pieces and just, you know, different things that you would work on. And he still hasn't found his, say, starting team. He's been chopping and changing as well. So we're still trying to find our feet and what works best for us. Like, to be fair, the first 30 minutes, like, Galway were the far superior team. And like, anybody watching the game could see that, you know. And then it was unfortunate that Shauna's defensive header went into the back of the net, and I think that kind of just turned in our favour then. And then once we got the second goal and the third goal, then, you know, we're kind of not cruising, but we kind of picked up a bit of confidence, and we're going, you know, we're playing a bit better. And then I was like, we knew that the game at the weekend was going to be extremely tough. Like, Maeve, we know when we were playing with Galway what was expected. It was a dogfight. Everything we went to was a dogfight, and we know, obviously I know, playing against Galway, it's always going to be the same. And to come out with such a big win, like 5-0, I think everyone was kind of shocked, to be fair.
Yeah, in terms of that, the first goal was just seemed to be confusion between the two girls going for the ball, ends up at the back of the net. These things happen. The second one, you almost seemed to be a bit annoyed that Ellen chose to give the ball to Lynn Marie, because you were free on the left hand side, and you could almost see, even though she scored, I could nearly see a little bit of frustration going, that could have been me. Is there a little bit of that personal kind of, I want to be the one that sticks the ball in the back of the net, or does it matter where the goals come from?
No, for me personally, I don't care who scores as long as we get the win. Like I knew it was like 3-on-1, and I knew if I just could occupy the defender and bring her away, Ellen would either choose me or Lynn Marie. And like I'm always happy for someone else to score. Like Lynn Marie has been absolutely outstanding for us in the weeks, and like to see her score such a good goal was brilliant, and that helps with her confidence then as well.
Yeah, in terms of, I suppose, when you look at that dressing room, some of the names you've mentioned there, you mentioned Keith Dullard, Keith Gray, and Lynn Marie, and others, and then Ellen 16. The rest of those names probably closer to double that. But I apologise, girls, but that's just the reality of the situation. It's a much older dressing room than other teams in the league. Now, they've been there, done that over the last 5 or 6 years, but is there a concern that maybe these girls aren't going to be around forever?
Yeah, like I think a few of us are aware, like obviously the older ones are aware that we can't carry on playing for much longer, but we might try. But I think in terms of getting youth into the team, it's good because you need that. You need the team to keep growing and maturing. And obviously if the likes of Ellen and Avo, they're coming up now as well. And then if a few of us do retire, someone needs to fill our shoes, So it is good that we're bringing in youth. And like we're looking at the under-17s and the under-19s now. I think that's fantastic that we have the pathway. Because before there wasn't that pathway, and you just kind of had to. Sometimes players weren't developed enough to come into the National League at senior level, so it's good now that that's the pathway through. So I think it's brilliant, especially in terms for us as an aging team, as we've been called before.
Yeah, we won't go there much more because it's not fair on everybody. But we'll get accused. Steph used to give out to me every single week for talking about her age. When it came to it, you're second in the league though. After 5 games of the season, it's all a bit wishy-washy because of the idle team every week. But you played 5 games. You're second in the league. You've got to be happy with that, I suppose. The fact that you bounced back from that opening day defeat to Peamount to kind of take 10 points from the last 12.
Yeah, like I think after the Peamount game, we felt not hard done by, but we felt like we should have won that game, and obviously we didn't win the game. So then we're like, look, we need to kind of get a bit of momentum going here and see can we pick up as many points as we can and just keep that going forward, especially leading into the Cork game now at the weekend. Like you can't take any games for granted at this level.
And like you're saying there, you're second in the league at the moment. I think if you finish second at the end of the season, would it be deemed to be a failure, or are you looking to win everything this year?
Yeah, we're looking to try and push on and win as much as we can this year. I think especially after last season, we were like the camp wasn't happy. We like as a whole we weren't happy as a group with our performances. So I think this season and in pre-season we set down a marker to kind of work as hard as we can and keep pushing on and hopefully get a bit of silverware at the end of the season. And like for me, I've been a runner-up. I've never won anything. So I'd like to win something just before I eventually do retire.
So is that the target then? Win the league and then just announce the retirement? Literally, I've won the cup. Yay! I'm out of here, girl. See you. I can't take these.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, we'll see. You'll see.
I have a feeling if you win the league, you'll be back for the Champions League next year. But that's just me thinking it. I think it'll take more than that to stop you, Sinead. Over the years of watching you, I think you'll be around for a little bit longer. Yes. Sinead, it's been fantastic. Before we let you go, any little stories you can tell us about Meabh? Because it's all been very clean and sanitary up to now. We want a little bit of dirt on her from the Galway dressing room over the years.
No, to be honest, I don't really have any dirt on Meabh. She's squeaky clean, and we've had a good, in fairness, we've had a good few nights out, and Meabh always gives 100% at training and in the dressing room and on the pitch. So no dirt or stories.
I thought you said she was going to give 100% on the nights out. I was like, that's a story I want to hear. Sinead Taylor, best of luck to you and your Wexford teammates this weekend. Trip to Cork and the rest of the season. And hopefully, maybe you'll be lifting that league title at the end of the season. Stranger things have happened.
Thanks a million.
Now, last weekend, another tough day at the office for the Treaty girls down in Limerick, but they managed to put up a fighting performance against league leaders Peamount, keeping them scoreless for the first hour of the game, despite running out 3-0 losers in the game. And I'm joined by their team manager, Niall Connolly, to talk about their season so far, and maybe we might focus on that game. Niall, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be on it now. I look forward to speaking to you both.
Well, it was your first season as the manager of Treaty United, and I suppose Peamount are always one of those teams you kind of don't really look forward to coming to town because of what the arsenal of firepower they bring, but you managed to keep them really, really quiet in a game at the weekend. Plenty of, I suppose, positives for the club to take out of that. What was your own impression during and after the game at the weekend?
Our impression as a staff really was one, just the positives. Look, you're right, no one is looking forward to playing Peamount at the moment. They're on an unbelievable run, but with the players we had the mindset that we can be really competitive throughout the game. Look, we analysed them. We set up in areas that we feel like we can neutralise them a lot, but also we could affect them. And I thought for the first 60 minutes we were very good. You can't be really critical of anything we're doing. And even afterwards, I just think Peamount showed why they're back-to-back champions, why they did the double last season. Like, they're just quality, their experience, their know-how was just off the charts, and we learned a lot from that last 30 minutes. But a lot of positives now to work on and move forward.
There's plenty of fight in this Tradie team, though, because I suppose we looked at a couple of the games this year. Bows on the opening day, a disastrous start, let's be honest. But you fought back in, you got yourself on the score sheet twice, and then 3 goals against Athlone up there. You don't seem to have a problem finding the back of the net when you get your opportunities.
No, look, we don't. We've got a bunch of exciting young attacking players. Like, from our midfield on, like, we feel like we can, with the players we have, we can hurt any team. But it was evident in our first few games that, and I want to be respectful of the opposition, because at the end of the day, they've put the ball in the back of the net and countless times. But we felt on reflection that we've been nearly assisting the opposition in scoring, in how we were setting up, how we were looking to play. And look, I have to first of all look at myself and the staff. Were a wee bit naive and wanting to implement a certain style of play straight away, instead of just building a solid foundation or a rock to build from. I think the Bows, the first 18 minutes of the Bohemians game, it was just a big eye opener in a lot of areas, just in terms of like how teams were setting up with us playing out. And look, I think against Athlone we played really well for the first 50 odd minutes. And then look, Wexford. Well, I think the Wexford and Galway game were the 2 games for us now, Chance, that kind of made us sit back and reanalyse where we're at the moment. And look, we still believe in the long-term process we want to achieve in terms of style of play, philosophy, but we just need to be accountable and adaptable at the moment. And I think the Wexford game, their first 3 goals, like 2 of the first 3, we assisted them in, like, and that's not discredit to Wexford. Look, they ended up putting the ball in the net, and well done on that for them. But we felt we really assisted them in it. And look, we had a crazy 6 minutes in Galway, and again, looking back in it, like, we assisted Galway really in scoring against us, rather than them just going, well done, and carving us open. So we felt like if we could nullify our mistakes or modify our build-up play, that we'd be a lot tougher to break down. And I think we've seen that against Peamount. And I think the Peamount game, it's, I just think we have to hold our hands up and say, yeah, look, the 3 goals they got were just well-deserved goals. They just worked them really well, and we didn't really have an answer to it. Like, and we can just now take the positives from the Peamount game. And I think we're going to have more of a balance moving forward now. And I honestly believe now, from Sunday on against Shelbourne, we're going to be very competitive in every game.
Does that almost make it easier from a coaching perspective, that you feel like you have to work on the defensive side of the game more so than the attacking? Normally the attacking part is the hard part to coach, but like Breifne mentioned there, you have plenty of firepower. And even the game against Galway, was we mentioned last week that you won the last 70 minutes of that game, you actually won 1-0. So is it easier to think from that perspective to be able to try to implement the defensive system now?
Yeah, look, it is in a sense, Maeve, to implement the defending aspect, because obviously I think everyone, players and staff, like, they don't want to keep conceding, so there's more of that kind of energy to work hard defensively. I think as well, though, it's getting the balance and act right. I think a lot of our goals we conceded was from our own possession. So again, it's creating clear patterns of play in terms of maybe how we can be a bit more fluid and safe in possession. But defensively, the girls have been excellent. Like, the last month now, we have the defending players coming in early for training, doing a bit more in shape work. Just movements when the ball is in certain areas. What do we do when we shift? When do we drop? But the players, to be honest, may have been excellent. Like, the 2 words I can always refer back to the players is accountability and adaptability. Like, because it'd be easy for players to look at the coaches as well and go, look, you're doing X, Y, and Z. But with these young, incredible players, they're willing to look at themselves as well and break down the game. But then they have the bravery to come to us as staff and go, look, we feel maybe we should be doing this maybe for now and then continue to build. So that's been a great learning experience for the whole staff as well and the players. But no, defensively, yeah, look, it has been easier to work on as of late, because I do think us going forward isn't an issue at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're the first coach we've had on the show. Episode 10, it seems kind of strange that we haven't had a coach on the show before. So congratulations. I think you're also the first, other than myself, you're the first man we've had on the show as well, which is kind of nice to be focusing on the female side of the game, which gets neglected from time to time. But anyway, my question was actually about, as a coach and having that philosophy, which I admired, even though it wasn't working, and it was kind of obvious it wasn't working in the first couple of games with those mistakes that you talked about, you stuck with it. How difficult was it to, I suppose, have to adapt that plan that you'd probably been putting together for a couple of months to kind of go, do you know what, actually, that's not working. I'm going to have to admit that it's not working and come up with plan B. How difficult was it for you to do that, I suppose? Because in a dressing room, there's a lot of kind of people's opinions and stuff coming in, but to actually get up and make that decision, it can be difficult at times.
Yeah, look, it wasn't an easy decision, but look, you have to be adaptable as a coach, and look, I'm still learning every day as well. Look, we have a clear idea of how we want to play, but look, as I said at the start, I had to look at myself more so than the staff, and was I a bit eager, was I a bit naive to bring in a certain style that probably hasn't been done before straight away, instead of just, right, let's just build the foundation. So look, I think on reflection, it wasn't a hard decision to go, right, we're just going to have to adapt for a short while. Like everything we do in training, the principles are remain the same. It's just like, as you've seen against the Peamount game, we just altered how we probably built it up. We're going to be more patient and when we can do things instead of doing it straight away. Because look, we have a young squad as well, and it's not an excuse. We're very much a group that want to always find solutions, but the way we're looking to play in the first few games, it's a lot of pressure on young players to look to implement that straight away, instead of going, look, we'll adapt our style to an extent whereby when the game starts to open up more, that, it's more natural for them to build. And that's what we've done. And I thought they were really good against Peamount. I only think Peamount only got the ball off us once in their own half, in the first half when we were in possession and stuff. So it's definitely a platform that we're going to continue to build on. But we will be, we're not going to compromise completely on our style. We're still going to keep a lot of the principles. But look, for now, it's just adapting to different styles. But look, the best managers in the world do. Like you see, like the likes of, even David Moyes with West Ham. He's a certain style. And against Burnley now, they completely changed it because he felt it would give him more success to get European football. So look, we can just learn from the best in the world. And I'm no different. I want to be an elite coach, and that's part of my pathway is to learn, grow, and adapt.
And from a personal perspective, how you find the transition from being the assistant last year to being the head coach or manager this year?
It's been pretty smooth, to be honest with you. I like kind of being very hands-on, we'd say, with a lot of stuff anyway. But no, look, under Dave last year, Dave was excellent for me last year. Like he really showed me how to operate in the Women's National League, how to do things off the pitch as well as on the pitch. And even in the off season, when I got the job, look, he was one of the first to ring me up and congratulate me, but give me a bit of advice and stuff, and that was always helpful. But the board, the treaty, were excellent with me. They were so helpful and everything, and Lorraine Coonahan in particular was just, she was on the phone to me nearly every day, just making sure I was all right with everything, was there anything I needed, and then the rest of the board of treaty, I've just been nothing but supportive, and it's made that transition a lot easier, knowing that, look, they support you, and they're willing to give you what you need, because I said it back in January, it was a brave decision from the board as well. I'm a young coach as well. I'm only 30, and to appoint a young manager, is brave in itself. So I just want to reward them by being the best I can be. But look, they're giving me every platform possible to go do that.
In terms of, I suppose, goals that have been set by the board or by the squad or by yourself, Where are you on that? Because I suppose from the outside looking in, it's very hard to see maybe when you're in a development stage like you are, where you're targeting your focus. What are the goals for you and the squad this season?
The short-term goal is just to develop a clear identity both on and off the pitch for the rest of the season. We have a very young squad, so look, I think player development is key. We've a number of players that could potentially be in an under-19 international squad. Obviously, there's Vera Powell and her staff are doing great work in terms of having home-based training sessions. We should, I think players should have targets to get in there, and how do we help them? Off the pitch, I think it's been seen by everyone what the board of Treaty United are doing off the pitch, and like even with the men as well, the men and the women, how they're operating the club, how they want it to be there long term. And I think it's just taking baby steps, it's just doing like day by day, being the best we can be on the pitch, off the pitch, and long term is to have a well established League of Ireland set up in the Midwest region, whereby with the men and the women that we're having local players representing the league, and I think that would be incredible, to have players in the Midwest region representing the women and the men at the highest level of the game, and long term go and compete for the top honours in Ireland. Look, we know we're a long way from it, but you have to build the foundations first, and I have to say everything done behind the scenes by the board, by Dave, by John, by everyone, by Con, has just been incredible.
Yeah, you talk about the men's and the women's been side by side, but I suppose the only noticeable outcome at the moment that I can see is that the men's are in the Markets Field, you're in Jackman Park. There is a difference in quality between the two facilities. We've talked a lot on this show about parity between men's and women's football, and the facility's been a big part of that. A lot of teams, I think there's only 2 teams in the league that don't play in the equivalent of the men's side, yourselves and Peamount, everyone else. Actually, Bowes as well. Everybody else is in the Turner's Cross or Athlone Stadium or wherever it might be, in DC Park in Galway. What is the plan with that medium to long term? Is Jackman going to be the home of women's football down there, or is it just a stepping stone to get back into the Markets Field?
Look, to be honest with you, that's a good question. I'm not going to say outright what the plan is, because I've never been involved in a lot of the discussions with that. But what I can say is, Jackman Park's been nothing but great for us. When we had to move there last season because the fire brigade were using Markets Field for the COVID, Jackman, their facilities are really good. In terms of COVID protocols, they've got a big clubhouse, so one team is upstairs, the other team has access to downstairs. The people that work in Jackman are really good, and even this season, the pitch is of a good level. Again, the facilities and the COVID protocols are brilliant. And look, obviously, it would be nice to play in the Markets Field. Look, it's that stadium in Limerick, but look, we're just as grateful to be in Jackman Park, and they've been nothing but accommodating for us. And look, I'm sure long term, I believe it will probably go like that with all the teams, as you said, that men and women be sharing the same stadium. But look, for now, for the short term, look, we're happy with Jackman Park. We're very much accepting it and embracing it as our home, and hopefully now we can just put the results right in Jackman moving forward. But no, look, it has been good to us so far.
Well, I suppose in terms of Jackman Park, it's a big learning week in Jackman Park this week for the girls and yourself in Treaty United. Peamount last week, Shelbourne in town next week. It's if you're going to learn something in the game, it's going to be this week. What's the goal for this weekend? Because obviously, I'm presuming you're looking for more of the same. Shell's come to town with fairly good firepower. They play a lovely brand of football as well. What can you do to counteract that this weekend?
Yeah, look, it's going to be a challenge. Look, just before I came on here, I was just putting a presentation together on Shelbourne. Look, for me, I think Shelbourne are the best footballing team in the league. Last season, I was very impressed by how they moved the ball. I think from watching all their games this season, I think Noel King he's come in, he's brought wealth of experience. I think he's changed a few aspects with him. They're still fluid with the football, but they've got other arsenals in their firepower going forward now. And I think for us, it's their attacking players are excellent. You got Jessica Zhu, you got Emily Whelan, you have Saoirse Noonan, you have Noelle Murray. For them, to interchange a lot. Then you've got Ciara Grant, who's really good in the ball, and Jamie Finn, she was in midfield for their last game. So we need to be mindful of that if she goes there or if she reverts to left back. Look, we'll be respectful of Shelbourne and we'll recognise their threats. But I think the most important thing for us is that we focus on what we do, because look, Shelbourne are going to have the ball quite a bit, but we can still affect what they do to an extent and how we are defensively structured. And then when we have the ball, it's all about what we do. And that's what we're going to look to do. We're going to look to be the best we can be in how we can nullify space for Shelbourne. But when we get the ball, we've recognised a lot of areas where we feel we can exploit them, and that's what we're hoping to do. And please God, you'll all see it on Sunday.
In terms of strengthening at the back, you've no use for maybe a decent international experienced central defender floating around in the west of Ireland anywhere, no?
No, look, I tell you what though, like I know it's mad saying it, like, but I wouldn't swap anyone we have at the moment. Like Alana Mitchell now, who was centre back on Sunday. Look, she's been up with the Ireland under-19s before. Jessie Mendes is a really good midfielder, is being converted into a centre back as of late, and look, she's embracing the role. And look, we've got a lot of young players in that area. Look, ideally, you would like an older statement, like, look, Shelbourne this weekend, they've got Pearl Slattery in, like, and you've got Jessie Stapleton beside her, who's, the amount of learning she's going to do. But look, we're very much happy with what we have, and what's great about the girls there, they're young, they're brave, they're bold, they're eager, and they're not intimidated by anyone, like, but again, that's the beauty of us as a coaching staff. It's up to us to develop these players to be the best in their position, and that's something we're embracing at the moment.
Okay, I was trying to get Meabh a contract, but obviously that's not happening. So, listen, thank you so much for joining us, Niall. Mave's going to go off on a little bit of a cry now because you haven't offered her a deal. But thanks so much for joining us. The very best luck on as Shells come to town, Jackman Park on Sunday. Best of luck. Probably going to need a bit of it this weekend, but I think towards the end of the season, I think we're going to see the fruits of that labour coming through, and I think there's a surprise in your squad. Whether it comes this week or not, who knows, but there's definitely one there this season to come. Thanks very much for joining us.
No, look, thank you both of you as well, and it's a pleasure. Really nice to meet you both as well.
Niall Connolly there. I think my joke about signing you may have went completely over his head. I think he was just on a different wavelength. He was thinking about his own squad and didn't want to offend anybody. Would you consider signing for another team in the league, or is it Galway or bust? Galway or nobody else?
Oh, Galway or nobody else for me. I think I'm a Galway girl at heart, so I wouldn't consider another team at the moment.
Well, we might see you back at some stage in the future in a Galway jersey. Who knows what the future holds? Well, we know what this weekend will hold in terms of the fixtures. 4 games this weekend. Galway idle. They don't have a game, so no emotional attachment made to any of the teams taking place this weekend. Cork and Wexford, they get the ball rolling on Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock in Turner's Cross, while Belfield Bow will be the venue for DLR Waves and Bows at 6 p.m, same time as Peamount United and Athlone, while Treaty and Shells will be in Jackman Park on Sunday afternoon. Also a 2 p.m. kickoff. Fairly predictable, maybe the Peamount, Athlone, Treaty, Shelbourne. I'm going to say at my peril because I'm still waiting for a shock in one of those games. But the other two seem to really stoke up an interest in terms of maybe being really good competitive games, and a test maybe for where the clubs in the league are at the moment.
For sure, I think the DLR and Bows game is going to be a big game. Like we kept alluding to, that DLR will be looking to set themselves apart from the bottom half of the table. But I think Bows are ever improving, and I think they'll fancy their chances against DLR, because I think with each game, Bows definitely can see the improvements, because there's a lot of new players in there, and it does take a lot of time to implement a system. So I think that one is definitely going to be an interesting one. But I think the standout game for me this week will be Cork and Wexford. I think Cork can be, I suppose they've been very unlucky this season in terms of the actual results. Like we keep alluding to, that their performances have actually been very decent, but the results haven't gone in their favour. So I think they'll be really looking to get a result, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did get a result, particularly when they're at home as well to Wexford. I think they're going to really put it up to them. But then on the other hand, you obviously have Wexford coming off the back of a big victory that they're going to be confident too. So it's a tough one to call, but I would be thinking that Cork can actually do some damage in that game.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good test, I think, to see where squads are. I feel Wexford, I know we talked to Sinead about where they are, and they're an aging team. She won't thank me for saying that, neither will her teammates, but they maybe are on the downside of that success they've had over the last few years. They're no longer standout title contenders that you go, they'll absolutely be in a title race. I think they'll be thereabouts, but I don't see them challenging for the title with Peamount or Shells. Presuming Peamount and Shells do go as expected and take full points from this weekend, I think we could be in a very interesting situation should Bows or Cork pick up points where Athlone and Treaty could be left a good bit adrift of that third last place on the league table as well. How healthy is it for teams to have that big gap in a league table if that's what should materialise at the weekend?
I suppose it's not the healthiest, and we saw that last year, the way they implemented the different system with COVID, and that the table split into two. And I think that meant that by the end of the season, every team was still in with a chance. They still had something to play for. So it wouldn't be good for the league, I think, to see a big gap. But at the same time, every team, like we discussed with Niall earlier, has their own goals set, and I think, when they have their own goals in mind as well, they are working towards something each week, to better themselves, whether the team is in a development stage or whether they're trying to challenge, the top end of the table. So I think, we're also, like you said as well, we are due an upset. So who knows, I'm sure both Treaty and Athlone will be hoping that this weekend is the time that they shine and that they just cause this upset that we have been looking for as well. So I suppose it's a football at the end of the day, and nothing is guaranteed. So we'll just have to see how the fixtures and how the results unfold this weekend.
Yeah, for me, I think Athlone are probably the side that are going to produce that upset if and when it does happen this season. I think they held Wexford to a really, really solid performance for 80 minutes, and it took a penalty to break them down. And I think, do I think it's going to come this weekend? Probably not. But then it is when you least expect it that you get these kind of upsets. And I think Athlone, despite where they are in the league table, I don't think they're that poor, if that makes sense. I think they will pick up points from the teams around them as the season progresses. They've just been a little bit unlucky in different games, and I think give it a bit of time, they will pick up points. Bows DLR for me is the highlight of the weekend. I just think it's going to be it's going to be the game. I think. So you're looking at Cork, I'll be looking at DLR or Bows. I think it'll be interesting to watch to see how those two teams have come on. They've been the two that I think have improved most from last season. And that, folks, is all we have time for again this week. Thank you very much to Meabh de Burca for joining me once again on the show. Meabh, a pleasure as always to have you.
Thanks, great to be here.
And also to our guests, Sinead Taylor, Aife Haran and Niall Connolly of Treaty United. We'll be back again next week when Steph should be back in situ here on the finalwhistle.ie Women's National League podcast. We will talk to you next week.